So here the injector is disassembled, and now the trick, and it actually wasn't very dirty. The tip here had a fair amount of carbon on it. I don't know if the nozzle was plugged any or not, but like I said, it didn't seem to be working the way it was, so what have I got to lose? Take it apart and put it together, or attempt to get it put back together and see if it works, because I can always buy new injectors. So I'm not really doing any harm to this one. So I can try and get videos of me reassembling it. Here I am. I'm going to attempt to put this injector together. I've never had one of these apart, and everyone suggests don't take them apart, but I can always buy a rebuilt one, so what have I got to lose trying to take this one apart and clean it up and see if it'll work. So you'll see some of my highly specialized tools. Now all of these parts go in that part of the injector. All these little parts go in there, and all of these parts are part of that, and then the two get screwed together. So I'm going to attempt to get it assembled. And when I took this apart, of course, I was going to be careful so I could see how the parts go, because I haven't found a diagram of this exact injector as to where the parts go. And of course they fell, and I had to look at the parts to determine where they go. And I have this little bitty piece there. It focuses. I think it focuses. You see the little wear marks on the side. So I have determined that goes in the bottom there. You can see a little collar, because that's the only place the diameter fits, and those wear marks would fit that little collar around the dark center. And then this piece goes in. I know that was the next part. And this piece goes on top of it, because that I did see was the first part out. And these little parts are for the check valve that go inside of there, so you'll see how that gets reassembled. But first, I'm going to work on the top half. You can see the timing mark on it there. And then on the rack, there are two timing marks on the teeth there, so we have to line those up when we put this in there and the rack in it. So that'll be the first thing I'll be doing. And you'll see some of my highly specialized tools I made. This is my tool I made, my specialized tool I made to hold the gear to set it in. So I'll put the rack in. First I got to put it in the right way. There's a groove in this bore, and I lined the two timing marks on those two teeth, one on each side of that groove, so that helps me to guide it in, because then as I put it in, the tooth with the timing mark on, I'll put a line with that gear when I drop it in. So let's see how it goes. And once I dropped it in, if I twist that and put some tension on it so it won't come out, I can pull this tool out. And now I can look in there, and yes, I have them lined up. Now this piece goes in, whatever it is. So it's in time, and I have to keep it kind of upright so the gear doesn't come back out of mesh again. Here's another tool I made. I'm going to put that on so that when the spring goes on and I compress it, there's room to drop this pin in. This is your plunger and all the metering for the metering. And there's a flat side on here that has to line up with the flat in that rack, or in the gear. For right now, I'm going to put this pin here, lines up with that groove in the bore. I'm going to put that in so it holds it all together. I'm going to try sliding this in. Oh, I pushed the gear out. Start over. Oh, let's see, some more highly specialized tools here. Always double check that the timing marks are lined up. Where would the world be without duct tape? This is to hold that gear in place while I try to get the plunger in, because that has to be turned just right. As it has a flat side on it to go into gear, and you can't turn it from this end because it just rotates on there, so I got to have it so I can get a hold of this end to turn it to get it to line up. So let's see if we have any luck with this process. Well, it must have went in there. So now I'm going to pull that out. Put this on. Oh no, boy, I would have been mad if I had forgot this piece. That. And now this. I'll keep it all together. I better move these parts before I slip and they go flying and I would never ever find them again. Oh, I think I actually have it together. I think that's as far in as it goes. Yeah. Now I got to get my highly specialized tool out of there. Because see, now the spring goes down into the groove. The spring goes down into a groove in the pin and holds that pin in place. So, that's together. Now I have to assemble the little parts, so I better put the seal on here before I forget. But when I assemble this, I have to do it. This is going to have to be completely upright so the parts stay in it. And I have to slide this down into it, and I can't have that falling out. Because if I try doing it laying on its side, the parts will fall out of there, or I believe they will. So, the rack turns the plunger, which does the metering. Because this isn't a fuel passage, I'm going to put some grease just on here. That should hopefully hold it in when I drop, or when I put the other part onto it. As I always say, when I have something that doesn't work, you might as well try and fix it, because it doesn't work anyway. So what's the worst you can do? Wreck it? I think that's going to work. Now, to assemble this. Now, first, I have to put this little disc in there. I think it's, I don't know what it's called, but I had it in there yesterday. Just drop it in, play with a wire till it's where it belongs. There, got that in. Now I want to keep that upright. Oh, that'll do. Now, drop this sleeve in. And this, I know this end went down because I can see the marks on it from where it fit on that little disc. And this is the valve or check valve. You can see around the edges. I know you can't see any of this, but you can see around the edges where it would go against that hole with the spring. And this piece has to go to the upside, because if it went out to the downside, it would just plug that hole off. So I'm sure those slots are let the fuel by. So I had this in there yesterday too. I just dropped it in. Oops, oh boy, don't lose that. Oh, you dropped it in, that's how I did it yesterday. Bounced it around until it sat how it should. Drop the spring in. Drop what I think is, I'd call the check valve. And then this goes on top. And this has to get put into there. So this is my next highly specialized tool I came up with. Oh, when I cut it off to make that other thing, now it's too short. So I actually got to make a new one of these, because my idea is to hold it like that, release, get it down to where it goes, and release it and let it slide in. So I made a new longer tube. There, now we're holding it in there. And voila! It looks like it dropped right in where it was supposed to be. So here it is. No leftover parts. Well, hopefully it threads all the way down without any resistance, then we can be. And it's back together. Of course, we don't know if it's going to work or not. If it doesn't work, it's still good for a core charge. Well, I went out, put the injector in, and it started running on one, but it just barely keep running on it. Turns out the one it's running on is the one I took apart and reassembled. I pulled the other one out, and I looked, the tip of that one I think is burned or gone off of it. So I'm just going to order 2 new rebuilt injectors, but took it apart, didn't invest any money in them. I'll get back at it when I get 2 rebuilt injectors. So thanks again for watching. I hope you get some enjoyment out of it.